In my previous life, I sacrificed the hands that once saved lives, exchanging them for Willow's smooth, unobstructed path through life, and for a marriage that looked perfect in the eyes of outsiders. Decades later, in the intensive care unit, Willow was on the brink of death. Go. George, I answered her softly, I'm here. Her cloudy eyes stared at the ceiling, as if she could see through the white walls into a distant past. If you hadn't saved me back then, how great that would have been. My whole body trembled, and in front of our children, my eyes turned red. I thought she was aching for me, regretting the hands I had ruined, still grieving for my sacrifice even in her final moments. But I didn't know that her very last thought was not sorrow for what I had given up. It was a deep, bone-piercing regret that she had suppressed her entire life. Chapter 01. Amid violent shaking and piercing, thunderous noise, my eyes flew open. What met them was not a sterile white hospital room, but a gray, dust-filled sky and swirling clouds of dirt. In my ears were shrill cries, pleas for help, and the heavy thuds of collapsing buildings. I froze, staring blankly at my own hands, young, strong, but covered in mud, at the soldiers in green uniforms and the medical staff in white running past me. This is a quake site. The place that carved itself deep into my bones, the event that changed my entire life. I'm back. Reborn decades earlier, back to the day Willow was buried beneath the rubble, the day I charged in without hesitation. The shock was so overwhelming that my mind couldn't function, but my body reacted faster than thought. My gaze locked directly onto that familiar stretch of ruins ahead, the temporary command post of the military district, now reduced to nothing but shattered debris. Willow was beneath it. Memories from my past life surged like a tide. Back then, I saved Willow at the cost of the hands that would never again hold silver needles, and that exchange bound us together for decades. She became accomplished, powerful, honored by all. I faded into the background, willingly playing the supporting role. She was the esteemed minister of the military district. I was the man others envied, the minister's husband. But even I had my regrets. Watching my former comrades shine brightly while I lived an ordinary, muted life, I had been deeply envious. I too had wanted to blaze with brilliance as they did. Now, given a second chance, what should I choose? Thinking of Willow's voice on her deathbed, still heartbroken over my ruined hands, I made my decision without hesitation and rushed forward. Though my previous life held regrets, I never once felt remorse. In this life, I will still choose the same path. I will save her, no matter what. I will save her again. Chapter 02. I knelt on the rubble, digging with my bare hands, ignoring everything else. My nails split open, blood mixing with dust and grit. Willow, Willow, hold on. My hoarse voice cracked as I worked faster and faster, as if pain no longer existed. From beneath the ruins came a faint response, filled with pain, yet laced with an unfamiliar urgency. George, is that you? Go, get away. My hand stopped midair. I thought I had misheard. She wanted me to leave. In my previous life, I never heard her say anything like this. It's dangerous here. There will be aftershocks. Leave now. Willow's voice grew louder, holding a sharp anger I had never heard from her, and something else, fear. I clenched my teeth and dug even faster as I replied, no, I have to get you out. I don't want you to save me. Go. My heart tightened painfully. She was so determined, so desperate, to stop me from ruining my hands. I wanted to tell her that I was back, that this time I would not repeat the mistakes of the past, that I wouldn't let her carry any burden for the rest of her life. I dug with even more frenzy. George, I'm begging you, don't save me, please. My hands froze. I lifted my head, and through a gap between the bricks, my gaze met Willow's. Those once bright, sharp eyes were now bloodshot, filled with agony, with pleading, and even a trace of despair. I don't want to live like that for a lifetime again. She was gasping, her voice weakening, yet every word crashed into my chest like a hammer. Live like that again? Like what? The decades she spent with me. A cold chill crept up my spine, and in that instant I understood. Willow had been reborn too, and she was in such torment that she'd rather die here than spend another lifetime with me. Chapter 03. Willow's words sent a violent shock through my mind. I knelt there stupidly, unable to move my hands at all. Over here. Someone's still alive down here. Another medical rescue team arrived. At the same moment the shout rang out. Willow, beneath the rubble, her eyes filled with despair and darkness, suddenly burst with a startling brilliance. Using every bit of her remaining strength, she called toward the rescue team. Dr. Ito. Makoto Ito. I'm here. Makoto Ito. My head turned mechanically toward the voice. I saw a tall, straight-backed, handsome doctor in a white coat running toward us at full speed. And the way Willow looked at Makoto made my heart clench painfully. It was the look of someone reunited with something precious, long lost, finally found. Makoto sprinted over, not sparing me even a glance. Battalion Commander Liu, hold on, we're getting you out right now. I watched as the team quickly cleared the debris, revealing Willow Liu's upper body, and I watched the light in her eyes, light that no longer had room for anyone but him. My chest tightened unbearably. Just then, another violent aftershock struck. The ground trembled, and rubble began raining from above. Watch out, Makoto shouted, moving to shield Willow. But at that same moment, though her lower body was still trapped beneath a heavy concrete slab, Willow suddenly thrust her arm upward, protecting the exact space where debris was most likely to fall on Makoto's head. A fist-sized rock slammed into her arm with a heavy thud. She groaned, frowning in pain. Yet she maintained that protective posture without a second of hesitation. I stared, stunned. In my previous life, in almost this exact spot, a rock of the same size had fallen toward me as I dug frantically to save her. Back then, she only watched in anxious panic, shouting my name, urging me to be careful, but she didn't reach out like this. So this is the truth, the body's instinctive reaction never lies. Watch out, I shouted, and then I saw it. The massive load-bearing slab, the one that, in my memory, eventually crushed my hands beyond repair, loosened from the continuous shaking and rolled straight toward where Makoto was standing. Makoto, Willow screamed, truly screamed, with total disregard for the risk to her already trapped lower body. Her frail frame erupted with terrifying strength as she forced herself sideways, using her own back to shield Makoto, fitting him tightly into a narrow pocket of safety created by the rubble. The giant slab scraped past her spine and crashed to the ground with a thunderous impact, dust engulfing them both. Willow let out a cry of agony, her face drained of all color, sweat pouring down like rain. She was clearly gravely injured. Yet this woman, this fragile woman, shielded that man with her whole body, and she was smiling, a soft, warm, contented smile. I stood there, watching that blinding scene through the swirling dust. My eyes burned uncontrollably, my chest clenched so hard I could barely breathe. So, this is how it truly was. Willow's final regret in her last life wasn't sorrow over my lost career. It was that my sacrifice became the price she had to pay. A debt that forced her into marrying me. A barrier she could never cross to reach Makoto. The person she wanted to spend her life with was never me, George. She married me only because I ruined my hand saving her. A sharp pain tore through my heart. As the truth cracked open before me, I realized my entire previous life had been nothing but a cruel joke. What I thought was decades of mutual devotion, a lifetime of happiness, was merely a shackle Willow couldn't break free from, her lifelong regret. Silently, I took a step back, then another, leaving the space entirely to Makoto. Let go, I thought. In this life, she will chase her light, and I will pursue my own dream. Chapter 04. I no longer looked toward Willow. Instead, I turned away, firmly, decisively, and ran toward the areas where others still needed help, relying on the solid medical knowledge I had accumulated in my previous life, and with the young, healthy, agile hands I possessed in this one, I picked up a set of gold needles that felt both familiar and unfamiliar. Very soon, shock and gratitude replaced the doubt in everyone's eyes, as they watched me, this seemingly gentle, unassuming young man, my fingertips trembling lightly as the gold needles danced. Accurately, steadily, swiftly piercing into the acupoints, the wounds that had been bleeding uncontrollably began to clot. The patients whose bodies had been convulsing in agony gradually calmed down. Even those whose breathing had been faint and erratic slowly found a steady rhythm under my hands. All skepticism melted into genuine respect. Young man, thank you so much. Just now, the pain in my leg nearly made me want to die, but the moment your needle went in, heavens, it's like a miracle. Dr. Wong. My child's fever dropped, he's finally sleeping soundly. I worked non-stop, sweat soaking through my back, dust coating my face, but my eyes grew brighter and brighter. That long-lost feeling, the fullness that came from saving lives with my own skills, from realizing my own worth, it washed away much of the pain Willow had caused me. In my previous life, I could only look up at my comrades, all of them achieving glory, basking in honor. I, too, had once been someone others looked up to, yet in the end, I became nothing more than the minister's husband in people's eyes, a man mocked for living off a woman. In this life, with these hands restored to me, I will carve out a brilliance of my own, and build a sky strong enough to shelter the people who truly belong to me. Chapter 05. A new round of emergency rescue finally came to an end. I finally had a moment to rest, even after everything, even knowing she no longer wanted my help. Decades of companionship in my past life made it impossible for me to simply ignore Willow. I knew very clearly that her injuries were severe, especially her spine and internal organs, which had likely suffered hidden damage when she shielded Makoto from that massive falling slab. If not treated and nourished properly, the aftereffects could be devastating and might even affect her future career. In my previous life, Seeing how badly she was hurt, I searched everywhere for medicinal herbs, enduring searing pain in my ruined hands, and stayed up several nights brewing the Wang family's ancestral bone-healing ointment to treat her. Back then, Willow saw my bandaged hands and couldn't help scolding me. "George Wang, are you insane? Do you not want your hands anymore?" In this life, my hands are unharmed, making the process far easier. By the time I found Willow's temporary medical tent, it was already dusk. A kerosene lamp glowed inside, its dim yellow light leaking through the fabric. I could faintly hear quiet conversation. "Don't keep calling me Battalion Commander Lu. It sounds too distant. If it hadn't been for you today, I might have died there." Willow Lu's voice, gentle, warm, completely different from the agitation she showed when she rejected me earlier. Makoto's voice was steady and calm. "Please don't say that. Saving lives is my duty. But you, how dangerous it was. How did you dare throw yourself in front of that falling stone?" Willow's voice softened further, tinged with warmth. "In that moment, I didn't think at all. I just saw the rock falling toward you and my mind went blank. It was instinct. Thinking back. I'm just glad I blocked it. You're a woman. I'm a man. This is something men are supposed to do. You can't keep disregarding yourself like that. Seeing you hurt like this, if I could go back, I would still do the same." Willow's voice came again. If time rewound, she would still protect him. So in my previous life, had I not rushed ahead of Makoto, this very scene would have happened anyway. How ridiculous that I once believed Willow loved me, that she pitied my ruined hands, that she carried that pain until her dying breath. Ridiculous that after she died, I followed her without hesitation. I took a deep breath, swallowing the bitterness in my chest, and finally lifted the tent flap. The conversation inside stopped abruptly. Willow was leaning against a simple cot. Makoto sat beside her, adjusting her bandages. Both turned to look at me. The soft warmth on Willow's face, the warmth she showed only to Makoto, vanished instantly, replaced by polite distance so quickly it chilled me. Makoto frowned lightly, a hint of scrutiny and wariness flickering in his eyes. I tried to keep my voice calm. "Willow, this is my family's ancestral ointment. It works wonders for bone mending and muscle regeneration. Keep it and use it." I extended the small ceramic jar toward her. My fingernails, still damaged from the day's digging, pressed slightly against the jar as I held it out. Willow's eyes lingered on the jar for less than a heartbeat before she looked away. Her voice was indifferent. "Thank you for your good intentions, Comrade George, but it won't be necessary. Dr. Ito will be in charge of my treatment. I trust him." My hand froze in midair. Comrade George. After decades of living side by side, reborn anew, she now called me comrade as if we were strangers. With my hand already stretched out, withdrawing it felt humiliating, but continuing to offer it felt even worse. Willow seemed completely unaware of my discomfort. She didn't even look at me. "These things must be valuable. You should give them to someone who needs them more. Comrade. Comrade George. Someone who needs it more. Comrade." Each phrase drew a precise, merciless line between us, our decades of past affection on one side, and the cold distance of this life on the other. I felt my cheeks heat uncontrollably, shame, disappointment, the sting of having my kindness rejected, and a cold anger at how desperately she wanted to distance herself from me, all flooding my chest. I could even feel Makoto's gaze upon me, tinged with pity, or perhaps the quiet confidence of a victor. Silently, I withdrew my hand, gripping the cool jar tight. "Sorry for disturbing you," I murmured, turned around, and walked away quickly, almost fleeing from that suffocating space. From inside the tent, I faintly heard Makoto's steady voice. He meant well. Treating him like that, it was too hurtful. And Willow's cheerful, unmistakably relieved response. "Precisely because he meant well. I can't accept it. I don't want him to misunderstand. It would cause unnecessary trouble." I stopped listening. So in this new life, I had become her trouble. Chapter 06. But the disaster zone was riddled with aftershocks. Shrill whistles and urgent shouts kept calling my name, giving me no time to lick my wounds. I had just fastened my medical kit when a panicked cry came from afar. "Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang. There's a child here, an aortic rupture. Coming." I wiped the dust from my face and sprinted toward the new rescue point without hesitation. Not long after I left, Willow, whose injuries were far more serious than she had admitted, was urgently transferred to the military district hospital, which had better equipment and specialists. Lu, her father, feared his only daughter would suffer permanent damage and pulled every possible connection to get her airlifted out early. At her request, Makoto received special approval to accompany her. When the helicopter carrying Willow and Makoto lifted off, I was kneeling under a collapsed beam, carefully treating a soldier whose leg had been impaled by a steel bar. Sweat slid down my temples, mixing with blood and dust, but I didn't notice. "Doctor. I'm fine. Go save the others first." The female soldier's voice trembled, yet remained firm. Without even lifting my head, I replied, There are other doctors elsewhere. My leg, is it ruined? She asked again, fear finally breaking through her composure. I swiftly inserted a needle to stop the bleeding and said, don't be afraid. Trust me, your leg can be saved. These hands, since I've gotten them back in this life, I'm going to make them fulfill their greatest purpose. With every day of relentless work, and every heartfelt thank you, Dr. Wong. The part of my heart that ached because of Willow was filled bit by bit, expanding, hardening, growing stronger. There were still too many people who needed saving. This was the place where I truly belonged. The old commander happened to see me continuing to treat patients with blood-soaked hands and couldn't help but praise George Wong, remarkable. I simply smiled and nodded. I would mend every regret from my last life. With the united efforts of the military and civilians, the disaster was finally brought under control. Once the situation stabilized, the rescue team returned in triumph. Because of my outstanding performance, I received an official commendation from the military district. Comrade George has disregarded personal danger, devoted himself to saving lives, and demonstrated the noble character of a revolutionary military doctor. The leader's voice echoed across the square. Thunderous applause erupted from below the stage. Wearing the ceremonial sash, medal in hand, I felt pride swelling in my chest, bright and blazing. In my past life, I could only look up at the glory of others, but in this one, that glory finally fell upon me. Chapter 07. After returning to the military district hospital, I would occasionally overhear the nurses talking about Willow. What they spoke of was always the same: her sudden closeness with Makoto. Whenever they noticed me walk by, they would immediately stop talking. I pretended not to know. In my previous life, even though I did everything I could, Willow still ended up with after effects. Her lower back would ache on rainy days. In this life, she had further aggravated her injuries by shielding Makoto from that falling slab. Willow was an exceptional female officer. In my past life, it took her 20 years to rise to the position of minister. I knew how effective the Wong family's ancestral ointment was. It would help her tremendously. And with my unharmed hands in this life, it wasn't impossible to help her heal completely, with no lasting sequelae. Thinking of this, I went to Willow's ward. Just as I raised my hand to knock, the voices inside made me freeze. I heard George earned great merit in the disaster zone and received a commendation. Makoto's voice carried a faint frustration he couldn't hide. If I had come back a few days later, maybe. Don't think too much. Willow's voice was warm and firm. Your ability doesn't need a medal to prove it. Believe me. In the future, I'll make sure you stand somewhere higher, to receive the glory that truly belongs to you. My fingers curled slightly. They had already confirmed their relationship this quickly. Makoto sounded a little unconvinced, but that was a military district commendation. Willow chuckled softly. You want honor? Once I recover, we'll head to the training grounds. I'll fight for it with my own hands. The man Willow, acknowledge must stand on the highest podium so everyone can see him. I'm the man, you shouldn't fight my battles for me. Makoto's voice grew quieter, but the joy in it was unmistakable. When I recover, marry me. Okay. I realized I had come at the worst possible moment. Slowly lowering my hand, I turned to leave. Who's at the door? Willow's alert voice halted my steps. I had no choice but to turn back and push open the door. It's me, George. The two people inside reacted differently. A brief stiffness flickered across Makoto's face before he regained composure. Willow, however, frowned slightly. Her tone was distant. Comrade George, what is it? It used to be just George. Now it was always Comrade George. I still wasn't used to it. I stated my purpose directly. I came to check on your injuries. This time it's not like before, especially the damage to your spine and internal organs. If not treated properly, it's easy to leave long-term issues in the future. Thank you for your concern. Willow cut me off, her tone distant. My injuries are healing well. Makoto's medical skills are excellent. I trust him. I persisted. Willow, I'm not questioning Dr. Ito's ability. It's just that the medical techniques passed down in my family specialize in these kinds of internal trauma. If you let me examine, maybe I can. Comrade George. Willow interrupted again, her brows knitting tighter. I believe I made myself very clear before. I trust Makoto. Makoto and I will be getting engaged soon. For the sake of propriety, please keep your distance. I don't want my fiancé to misunderstand and cause unnecessary trouble. I stared at her, barely believing she could say something like that. We grew up in the same military compound. Even if not lovers, we had decades of childhood friendship. Was she really going to sever that completely? Willow continued, calmly and coldly. I know my own body. I trust the man who will be my husband. If anything does happen in the future, I will take responsibility for the consequences myself. Her future husband. She would take responsibility herself, but I feared what she could not take. I tried again, still holding on to the last bit of hope. Willow, I only came because our families have been close for generations. And we grew up together. There's nothing more to it. You know my family's medical skills. They're especially effective with trauma. No need for unnecessary gestures. Willow's tone was growing impatient. I said it already. I know my own condition. We did grow up together. And I always saw you as an older brother. But you're not actually my brother. If Comrade George has free time, please focus on others who need you. I have Makoto here. Willow, I'm only trying to make sure you don't have lasting injuries. You don't need to reject me so anxiously. Comrade George. She frowned deeply. Whether I have after effects or not has nothing to do with you. You should focus on other patients. Please leave. I need to rest. A flush of humiliation burned across my face. All I wanted was to keep her from suffering permanent damage. Yet she was so desperate to draw a boundary. All to put Makoto at ease. I looked at Willow's firm expression, then at Makoto, silent beside her. In the end, every word I wanted to say dissolved into a faint, bitter curve of my lips. I turned and left, quietly closing the door behind me. At the corner of the corridor, I faintly heard Makoto's voice, tinged with worry. Wasn't that too harsh? The entire military district is saying he likes you. Willow's answer was cold, almost merciless. If he likes me, does that mean I have to like him? You know I only like you. I'm doing this so he doesn't develop any unrealistic hopes, and so he won't upset you. I leaned against the cold wall, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. 2 lifetimes of emotion still made my chest ache faintly. If he likes me, does that mean I must like him? Unrealistic hopes. So he won't upset you. Fine. This puts an end to everything I once held in my heart. From now on, we will simply be strangers. Chapter 08. I never denied that Willow was an exceptional woman. She possessed a determination no weaker than any man's, yet also had the delicate sensitivity of a woman. In my previous life, even though Willow loved Makoto, once she married me, she locked those feelings away completely and lived her entire life by my side. So much so that until her death, I never realized another man existed in her heart. So in this life, her refusal was clean and absolute. She feared I would cling to her, and she wanted to give Makoto complete security. That, I could understand. In my mind, everything became clear. No one wronged anyone in our past life. It was simply a matter of choices. And in this life, since Willow had made her choice, I would only respect it. Quietly, I went to find Makoto Ito and handed him the ointment I had prepared. Dr. Ito. This is my family's ancestral ointment. It will help with Willow's injuries. She doesn't want to accept my goodwill, but I know you care about her condition. So, before I could finish, Makoto cut me off sharply. Dr. Wong. I will take care of Willow's health. There's no need for you to worry about her. I hope you keep your distance in the future and stop being so concerned about her. Do you know that sometimes, your concern becomes a burden to others? His words stung, but I still replied calmly. I'm speaking purely from a doctor's duty. I can't bear to see a talented officer risk her future. That's enough. A faint, mocking curve appeared on Makoto's lips. Duty? There are so many injured people in this hospital. Why don't you show the same duty to them? George, we're both adults here. Let's not pretend. Willow is with me now. I hope you can keep your distance, so no one starts gossiping, saying that I, Makoto, stole the sweetheart of young Master Wong. You come from a well-off family, so maybe you don't care about reputation, but I was raised to never interfere in someone else's relationship. Keep your ointment for someone who actually needs it. Willow has me. Looking at Makoto's handsome yet wary face, I suddenly felt very, very tired. Still, I forcibly pushed the ointment into his hands. Don't worry, I'm not interested in Willow. I truly mean well. If you really care for her, then at least try the ointment. Don't let her carry regrets. After saying that, I didn't bother to see his reaction. I turned and walked away. Behind me, Makoto glanced at the ointment in his hand, let out a cold snort, and casually tossed it into the trash. Chapter 09. After giving away the ointment, every lingering worry in my heart finally settled. With the weekend off, I could at last spare time to return to the compound and visit my parents. But before I even reached my doorstep, a warm, familiar voice called out, George. Ah, finally, I caught you. Mrs. Liu came hurrying over with a basket of groceries. Without giving me a chance to respond, she grabbed my arm and looked me up and down. Look at those dark circles. You must be exhausted at the hospital. You've lost weight. You're coming to our house for dinner tonight. Auntie made ginseng chicken soup. You need a proper meal. In the past, such affection would have filled me with warmth, but now, it only made me uncomfortable. I forced a small smile. Auntie Liu, really, there's no need. Mrs. Liu immediately cut me off with a playful scold. What, no need? Don't be so polite with Auntie. I watched you grow up. Since when did you start acting like a stranger with me? Just as I struggled to find a way to decline, a familiar voice sounded from behind. Mom. My body stiffened. Slowly, I turned around. Not far away, Willow stood leaning on a crutch. Makoto was carefully supporting her arm. The moment our gazes met, the air froze. Mrs. Lu's smile stiffened instantly, her expression turning dark as she eyed Makoto with displeasure. Willow hobbled over, her face calm. Her gaze brushed past me without a pause or flicker, landing directly on her mother. Mom, this is Makoto, my partner. She gently pulled Makoto's hand closer. Makoto, this is my mother. Makoto stepped forward quickly and said, with a hint of nervousness, Auntie, hello. Mrs. Lu's expression shifted repeatedly. She looked at Willow, then at Makoto, and finally at me, her hand instinctively tightening around my sleeve. Willow noticed and frowned. Mom, Comrade George has things to do. Don't keep him. Besides, it's my first time bringing my boyfriend home. It's inappropriate to have an outsider present. Mrs. Lu stiffened, humiliated and furious. Even if her daughter had a boyfriend now, how could she treat me, someone who grew up with her, like a stranger? Besides, I was the son-in-law she had already acknowledged in her heart. Willow, what are you saying? What outsider? George is not an outsider in this house. And what's with this Comrade George? Weren't you always calling him just George? What happened between you two and he? Before Mrs. Lu could finish, I quickly stepped in, gently pulling my sleeve free. Auntie Lu, I haven't seen my parents in a long time. I'll head back. George, wait. Mrs. Lu reached out, wanting to say more, but I had already turned around and walked away, almost fleeing, toward my own yard. Behind me, I faintly caught Mrs. Lu's barely restrained voice of anger. Willow, what is wrong with you? Are you trying to infuriate me? You and George? Mom, I like Makoto. I don't like George. Please don't mention us in the same breath again. You'll make Makoto misunderstand. Click. The iron gate shut behind me, sealing off all the awkwardness. I stood in the familiar courtyard, breathing in the familiar scent of home-cooked food, and then I shouted, Dad, Mom, I'm back. Back from my previous life. Chapter 10. Ever since that day, rumors slowly began spreading through the military compound. Did you hear? Willow brought home a boyfriend, but her mom didn't even let the men through the door. I'm telling you, the Wang family's boy is so much better, grew up with Willow, and he's from a family of medical experts. Mrs. Lu practically raised him like her own son. Exactly. I was there that day, when Mrs. Lu saw that Dr. Ito. Her face turned green. Anyone with eyes knows George liked Willow. Everyone thought they'd end up together, but suddenly this Ito guy pops up out of nowhere. Inevitably, these words reached my ears. All I could do was act thick-skinned and pretend I didn't hear a thing. It was my own fault anyway. At this stage of my life, I had once loved Willow with all my heart. To make her happy, I would have done anything. Everyone in the compound used to know how I felt about her, but Willow was getting married, and the groom was Makoto. So now, in the eyes of everyone, I naturally became the man who got dumped. Saying I wasn't embarrassed would be a lie, but after living decades in my last life, my face had grown pretty thick. To avoid unnecessary trouble, I tried my best to avoid running into Willow and Makoto, but fate wasn't on my side, and I still ran into them. No, not fate. Makoto was clearly waiting for me. His expression was sour, and his tone far harsher than before. George, what do you mean by this? You promised me last time you wouldn't bother Willow anymore, so why are you pulling strings behind our backs and getting Willow's mother to oppose us? I frowned. You're mistaken. I've never said anything to Auntie Lu about you two. Makoto let out a cold laugh. Mistaken. The whole compound is talking. They say Mrs. Lu only acknowledges you as her son-in-law. If you didn't say anything behind my back, why would she dislike me so much? Auntie Lu doesn't like you, and somehow that becomes my fault. I almost laughed in disbelief. Dr. Ito, I'm busy. I don't have time to interfere in your matters with the Lu family. If Auntie Lu doesn't like you, you should reflect on yourself. Don't come running to me. Makoto sneered. Oh, reflect on myself? Then tell me, why is it that every time I visit Auntie Lu, she brings you up about how George has been sensible since childhood, how George's medical skills are excellent? George, if you're going to do something, own it. You pretend to be generous in front of Willow to win her favor, and behind her back, you get her mother to suppress me. What are you trying to achieve? I almost laughed. Auntie Lu didn't say anything wrong. I was sensible since childhood. My medical skills are good. What's wrong with elders praising juniors? You're upset because Auntie Lu complimented me, and that's somehow my fault. Dr. Wang, I don't want to speak harshly, but the truth is, if you hadn't clung to Willow, Auntie Lu wouldn't have misunderstood. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't be so critical of me. I almost laughed outright at this point. Dr. Ito, I've told you, Willow and I are just comrades in arms. Your relationship with her has nothing to do with me. If you insist on believing I'm manipulating things behind the scenes, I have nothing more to say. I stepped around him, ready to leave. Stop right there. Makoto raised his voice loud enough that passing nurses turned to look. George, Remember your place. Willow and I have already applied for marriage registration. She is my soon-to-be wife. From now on, stay away from her and her family. Do not appear in front of them again. I was truly angered now. Dr. Ito. Even if you're Willow's husband, I've lived in this compound for 20 years. So you're telling me I'm not allowed to go near the Liu family anymore? Does that mean I'm also not allowed to return to the family compound? And who are you to give me orders? I have been giving way step after step, yet they pushed further and further. Did they really think George Wang had no temper? Chapter 11. I turned around to leave, but saw Willow standing behind me. Willow looked at me, her gaze icy cold. Comrade George, I was the one in the wrong before. Back when you were following after me, I didn't clearly reject you. I'm sorry for causing that misunderstanding. Now that Makoto and I are about to get married, please give him the respect he deserves. My expression darkened instantly. I was furious. What I said just now was simply the truth. What right did Makoto have to point fingers at me? Yet this was what Willow chose to say. She had to know what her words implied. They implied that I, George, was shameless, pestering her endlessly. Good for you, Willow. Just to vent for Makoto. You trampled my dignity right under your feet. Our two families were so close. I never thought Willow would refuse to leave me even a shred of face. Facing the pointing and whispering of the onlookers, I felt unbearably humiliated. Yes, at that time I did like Willow. Everyone in the compound knew it. But after being reborn, I had already kept my distance. I asked myself, I never did anything to wrong them. What right did they have to make trouble for me? Even if I still remembered the affection I once had for her, I was truly angry. Battalion Commander Liu, I need you to understand something too. I chased after you before because we lived in the same compound. I merely treated you as a younger sister from the same community. Since you feel I've become a burden, don't worry. From now on, you are you, I am me. We'll just be strangers. You're getting married. I'll sincerely wish you both a lifetime of happiness. Also, you too, please stop coming to me to seek a sense of presence. Hearing my words, Willow Liu froze for a moment. She had always known I liked her. She didn't reject me, perhaps because our families were close. Or maybe because she had some faint affection for me. Maybe she felt her past life with me wasn't as fulfilling as she had hoped, which led to her regrets. In this life, judging from her resolute attitude, I knew she would never repeat her mistakes. Hearing such cold words from me, Willow inexplicably felt uncomfortable, but she quickly suppressed it. This was what she had wanted in the first place. She would not allow any more regrets. She looked at me and spoke again. If we've bothered you, we apologize. You know my mother, she recently misunderstood Makoto because of some rumors. Her attitude hasn't been very good. I didn't speak, quietly waiting for her to continue. I know this might not be your intention. Willow took a deep breath and said, but could you please find a chance to make things clear to my mother? Ask her to stop pairing you and me together. This has caused Makoto a lot of pressure and distress. Seeing the crease in her brow, seeing her worry for another man, I suddenly found it absurd. Not only was she standing up for Makoto, she was even dumping the blame on me for his sake. Between the lines, she was implying that I had said something to Madame Liu, causing her to dislike Makoto. In her mind, the fact that Madame Liu liked me was also my fault. My mere existence, as George, was the original sin that caused Makoto distress. So this was how far she could go to protect someone. I truly wanted to tell her that I, too, had been reborn. In our past life, I spent my entire life giving everything to her. This life, I no longer intended to give, nor to be entangled with her again. But in the end, I swallowed my words. I only nodded and said, all right, I understand. Willow seemed relieved, yet also somewhat guilty, and added, thank you, and everything from before is in the past now. We should both live new lives. Yes, it's all in the past. I repeated her words. Battalion Commander Liu, Dr. Ito, is there anything else? If not, I still have patience to see. Seeing the distance in my attitude, Willow opened her mouth slightly but said nothing. Leaning on her crutch, she turned and left with Makoto, watching her slightly limping back, overlapping with the bold figure she once had in my previous life. I let out a small laugh. Willow, once you make a move, there's no taking it back. Look forward, don't ever regret it. Chapter 12. I am a man who keeps his word. Since I had agreed, I chose a time and deliberately made a trip to the Liu residence. When Madame Liu saw me, she was overjoyed. George, come in, quickly. Auntie just finished making some white fungus soup. Shall I get you a bowl? Auntie Liu, please don't trouble yourself. I stopped her, my tone solemn. I came today because there's something I want to make clear to you. Seeing my serious expression, Madame Liu seemed to sense something, and the smile on her face faded slightly. What is it, George? Why so serious? I met Madame Liu's eyes directly, my tone clear and resolute. Auntie, I know you've always liked me and treated me as if I were your own son, and I've always respected you very much as well. But regarding Willow and me, I think you might have misunderstood something. Madame Lu pressed her lips together, not saying a word. Willow and I grew up together, and I treasure that friendship deeply. But my feelings toward her have always been those of an older brother toward a younger sister, nothing more. I spoke each word with exceptional clarity. No such feelings before, none now, and there will never be any in the future. Madame Lu finally couldn't hold back and said, "But George, before you clearly." I smiled and interrupted her gently. That was back when I was young and didn't understand things. Now that Willow has found someone she truly cares about, I'm genuinely happy for her. Dr. Ito is a good comrade. They're a well-matched pair. I leaned forward and held Madame Lu's hand. Auntie, please don't try to pair Willow and me together anymore. It's unfair to Dr. Ito, and for me, it's a burden as well. Madame Lu froze for a moment, her expression shifting from surprise to disappointment, finally melting into a long sigh. George, are you speaking from your heart? I nodded. Absolutely. Auntie Lu, you will always be a respected elder to me, and I'm grateful for your kindness. But matters of the heart cannot be forced. I want Willow to be happy, and clearly, her happiness lies with Dr. Ito. Madame Lu was silent for a long time before slowly speaking. Auntie understands. It was Auntie who thought too far ahead. But don't become distant from me because of them. When did I start liking Willow? It must have been when I was very young. Auntie Lu used to tease me over and over. George, how about becoming Auntie's son-in-law in the future? Once, twice, eventually. I seemed to take it seriously. When I stepped out of the Lu home, I felt completely at ease. The sky was bright blue, filled with warm sunlight. I had finally cut off the last unnecessary thread with my own hands. Chapter 13. After that frank conversation, although Madame Lu was disappointed, she no longer deliberately tried to tie Willow and me together as she used to. But the interactions between our two families gradually became less frequent. Occasionally, when we met in the courtyard, Madame Lu would still greet me with a smile. George, heading to work? But the excessive warmth was gone, replaced by a polite distance that was just right. I actually found this way of getting along more comfortable. Yes, Auntie Lu, there's a difficult case consultation today. I always responded politely, then hurried off to the hospital. Sometimes in the hospital garden, I would see Willow and Makoto walking side by side from afar. Makoto carefully supported Willow as they whispered to each other, happiness radiating from their faces. Willow, the doctor said if you keep up with your rehab for another 2 months, you'll be able to give up the crutch. It's all thanks to you being with me. When bits of such conversation drifted to my ears, I always calmly took a detour. My heart no longer rippled because of any of this. Now my world was filled completely with silver needles, medical texts, and patients. By day, I saw patients. By night, I organized my family's medical records, combining the experience from my past life with my practice in this one. I began writing clinical insights into golden needle therapy. I was as busy as a spinning top, but I still persisted at my post. Dr. Wang, the acupuncture plan for this case. A young intern held the medical chart, seeking guidance humbly. You must pay special attention to the depth and angle of insertion here, I explained patiently, the golden needle in my hand reflecting a soft glow under the light. Life was busy and fulfilling. All those troubles about Willow had finally become distant memories. Time flowed quietly like water. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Chapter 14. This spring, the military district was organizing a joint competition for women soldiers. In the cafeteria, the female soldiers were buzzing about the event. I heard this competition is tied to promotion quotas. Battalion Commander Lu will definitely participate. Right, she's the top in our entire district. The girl raised a thumb. Our company Commander Su isn't bad either. Carrying my lunch tray, I walked past, ignoring their chatter. In my previous life, Willow made her name during this very competition, winning with overwhelming dominance and receiving a special promotion, rising swiftly through the ranks afterward. But in this life, none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I heard Willow's injury had healed well, her cast had been removed, and she was training intensively again. Makoto was a good partner, accompanying her every day as they jogged lap after lap on the training field. In this life, Willow would still achieve great success, and I would shine brilliantly in my own way. Chapter 15. On the day of the competition, I, as a member of the medical support team, stayed at the medical station with the other medical staff. I skillfully checked the emergency supplies, completely unfazed by the lively atmosphere of the event. When it was Willow's team's turn to enter the field, I still subconsciously glanced over. Even after experiencing a serious injury, she still looked sharp and valiant standing at the starting line. As the events progressed one by one, Willow's performance was outstanding at first. Her stamina and technical skills clearly displayed her solid foundation. In the spectator stands, Makoto clenched his hands nervously, his eyes full of pride. However, When the competition reached the obstacle course requiring high-intensity load-bearing and fierce movements, an accident happened. After leaping over a high barrier and landing, Willow's expression suddenly changed, her movements noticeably slowing and deforming. She tried to force herself to continue, but the next task, low crawling under a net, required tremendous core strength and leg power. The moment she bent down, a muffled cry of pain escaped her lips. Her entire body curled involuntarily, and cold sweat instantly spread across her forehead. Acting on professional instinct, I grabbed the emergency kit and rushed over. Her old injury has relapsed. She needs immediate transport to the hospital. I made a calm assessment and assisted the other medical staff in lifting her onto the stretcher. The spectators erupted in shock. No one had expected that the strongest contender would fall during the competition. Standing at the medical point, I watched the stretcher being carried away, my gaze steady. I remembered that in my previous life, after Willow was injured, it was through my Wong family's secret methods and careful treatment that she recovered in a short time, stronger than before. But in this life, the ointment I offered was rejected, and my follow-up examinations and suggestions were ignored. Perhaps this is fate. Everyone must bear the consequences of their own choices. Chapter 16. The news of Willow's failure in the competition and the relapse of her old injury quickly spread throughout the military district. After a more detailed examination at the hospital, the conclusion was not optimistic. Her previous injury had never fully healed, and the extreme load of the competition had caused irreversible damage. The doctor's diagnosis was, she was no longer suitable to remain in high-intensity, high-risk combat units. For the Liu family, this news was undoubtedly a heavy blow. Willow Liu's father was the chief of staff of the military district, a man who had spent his life on the battlefield and had placed great hopes on his daughter. Madame Liu was even more anxious than an ant on a hot pot. That evening, as soon as I got home, my parents called me into the living room. On the sofa sat Madame Liu and Mr. Liu, their faces clouded with worry. My father spoke first. "George, your Uncle Liu and Auntie Liu came because they want us to help, and your medical skills now far surpass mine." He didn't finish his sentence, but I already understood. My expression remained calm as I sat down. Madame Liu immediately grabbed my hand, tears welling before she even spoke. "George, Auntie knows that in the past Willow did some things wrong, but this time, you must help her. She can't leave the army. That is her life." Mr. Liu's face was also heavy. "We heard that your maternal family's ancestral medical techniques might still have a way. Could you take another look at Willow? Even if there's only a sliver of hope, we don't want to give up." Everyone's eyes turned to me. My father also looked at me. "George, what do you think?" Ever since Willow and Makoto got together, my father had been holding a breath in his heart. He had complained beside me that Willow had gone too far. When I pursued Willow, she never rejected me, but in the end, she brought Makoto home, drew a clear line with me, and caused those humiliations. Seeing your own son disliked, any father would feel upset. But public and private matters are separate. Willow was someone he watched grow up. He didn't want her military career to end here either. After all, Willow truly loved being a soldier. In this past year, my medical skills had advanced rapidly, surpassing my father. So even though he knew I might not be willing, he still asked. I remained silent for a moment, then looked at my parents and the Liu couple, who were watching me with desperate hope, and slowly spoke. "Uncle Liu, Auntie Liu, Dad, Mom, it's not that I don't want to help. It's just that." I paused, met their eyes, and continued in a calm yet unwavering tone. "Battalion Commander Liu's injury has missed the best treatment window. I'm not confident I can cure her." At the title Battalion Commander Liu, everyone in the room froze. They knew we had grown distant, but they didn't expect it to be to this extent. The faces of Mr. and Mrs. Liu instantly turned pale. As a physician, I naturally hope to heal every patient. I continued, my voice steady, no resentment, just a statement of fact. But treatment requires trust and cooperation from both doctor and patient. Battalion Commander Liu and Dr. Ito seem not to trust me or my family's medical techniques. Forcing myself into the situation would not only reduce effectiveness but may also cause unnecessary misunderstandings and conflict. I stood up and bowed slightly to Mr. and Mrs. Liu. "I'm sorry, Uncle Liu, Auntie Liu. This is something I cannot help with. I hope you can understand." After that, I no longer looked at their complicated expressions. I turned and went back to my room. I closed the door, shutting out the sighs and murmurs from the living room. I knew that what I did might seem heartless, but after living 2 lives, I saw things clearly. Willow's injury required long-term treatment, and I no longer wished to be tied to her in any way. Willow's path was ultimately hers to walk, and my path, George's path, had only just begun. Chapter 17. The next day, under my parents' repeated persuasion, I still accompanied my father to Willow's hospital ward. I knew this was for the sake of the long-standing relationship between our 2 families. So be it. My parents' dignity was something I had to uphold. Willow lay on the hospital bed, her face ashen, the sharpness in her eyes now replaced with emptiness. Makoto held her hand tightly, worry written all over his face. "Willow, don't worry. The Dean's ancestral medical skills will definitely have a solution." Makoto comforted her softly. Willow only kept her eyes shut, her tightly pressed lips revealing her inner despair. My father carefully examined her injury, sometimes pressing and asking questions, sometimes focusing to check her pulse. I assisted silently beside him, recording the findings. "Does it hurt here?" "Yes." "Any numbness in your leg?" "Yes." After the examination, my father washed his hands, his brows deeply furrowed. I conducted a thorough examination as well. As I checked, Willow finally opened her eyes, looking at me with a face full of hope. When I finished and looked at my father, I gently shook my head. Seeing that gesture, Willow shut her eyes in despair. Madame Lu understood what it meant, but still couldn't help asking, "Old Wang, how is she? Will Willow be able to get better?" Everyone held their breath. Willow's injury, my father began slowly, was delayed for far too long. If half a year ago, right after she got hurt, she had received our family's acupuncture techniques to unblock the meridians, paired with the special ointment for internal and external treatment to strengthen her foundation, she might have fully recovered without sequelae. He paused, and under the Lu family's paling expressions, continued. But now, the meridians in the injured area have already become clogged and adhered. The hidden damage is set. At this point, I can only try my best, use acupuncture and medication to relieve pain and improve some functions, but to restore her to the level required to withstand the high-intensity training of combat units. I'm afraid that is impossible. The word impossible landed like a hammer, smashing into everyone's hearts. Madame Lu's face instantly turned deathly pale. Her body swayed, almost unable to stay upright. Mr. Lu seemed to age 10 years in an instant. Makoto's tears flooded out immediately. How could this happen? Willow, she. Suddenly, Madame Lu jerked her head up and stared straight at me. "George, back then, you were at the rescue site. You could have saved her, you had the skills. Why didn't you treat her?" Her voice rose sharply, filled with anger and accusation. Was it because she was going to marry Makoto? So you deliberately didn't save her. You just stood there and watched her future be ruined. I treated you like my own son. How could you not save her? How could you not save her? Her words exploded through the ward like thunder. Mr. Lu stared at her in shock, then turned to me. Makoto stopped crying, looking at me with complicated eyes. Even Willow, lying on the bed, suddenly opened her eyes wide, staring at me, disbelief and a deep, painful struggle within her gaze. All eyes, like spotlights, focused on me in an instant. In those eyes were desperate questioning, hidden suspicion, and agonizing turmoil. I stood there, bearing the weight of all their gazes. I remembered Willow's decisive refusal beneath the rubble. Remembered the ointment she pushed away inside the tent. Remembered how she coldly drew a line between us outside the hospital room. Remembered how she had thrown herself in front of Makoto to block the falling stone. Remembered her self-righteous tone when she asked me to clarify things for her. The kindness of a past life, the resentment of this one, decades of mutual respect, reduced to strangers within a single year. I slowly lifted my eyes, letting my calm gaze sweep over Madame Lu's twisted, emotional face, over Mr. Lu's pained expression, over Makoto's conflicted look, and finally, it rested on the woman lying in the hospital bed, the woman who had been entangled with me for 2 lifetimes. I smiled faintly and said, "I already saved her." Chapter 18. My calm, "I already saved her," was like ice water thrown onto flames, instantly freezing the heated atmosphere of accusation in the ward. Madame Lu opened her mouth, as if wanting to speak, but my next words choked her back. But Battalion Commander Lu believed I was trying to pester her and rejected me again and again. I even went to Dr. Ito and asked him to persuade her to at least try my ointment, but it seems they never used it. If Battalion Commander Lu had trusted me even once, she might not be in this state today. My gaze swept lightly over the pale-faced Willow lying on the bed. The specifics, you should ask Battalion Commander Lu herself. She knows best. After speaking, I no longer looked at them. Instead, I turned to my father. "Dad, let's go." My father sighed, patted my shoulder, and the two of us walked out of the ward together, ignoring the mixed gazes behind us. When the door closed, dead silence filled the room. Madame Lu suddenly turned to her daughter, her voice trembling. "Willow, was what he said true? Was it you who refused his help?" Willow closed her eyes, her chest rising and falling violently, but she did not utter a single word. Madame Lu turned to Makoto next. "George said he gave you the ointment. Did you give it to my daughter or not?" Makoto's eyes flickered, but he remained silent. "Why didn't you let Willow use it? Why? It's all your fault. If not for you, how could my daughter end up like this?" As Madame Lu lunged toward Makoto, Willow's eyes snapped open. "Mom, Don't. It was me who refused George's ointment. It was me who refused to let him take my pulse. And it was me who told Makoto not to use George's ointment on me. All of it was me. Her voice was hoarse but clear. It was my arrogance that made me think my body was fine. I didn't want to owe him anything or let him misunderstand anything. All responsibility lies with me alone. It has nothing to do with Makoto. Nothing to do with anyone. She truly was a woman who could stand shoulder to shoulder with men. Even at this point, she neither shirked responsibility nor failed to shield Makoto. Madame Lu collapsed onto a chair, covering her face as she cried bitterly. She finally realized it wasn't that I refused to save Willow. It was that her own daughter had ruined her future with her own hands. Willow lay there, staring blankly at the ceiling. Did she not want to vent, to rage at fate's cruelty, at her own foolishness, at those damned uncontrollable feelings? But whom could she blame? George? He did nothing wrong. Makoto? He was even more innocent. All the bitter fruit was planted by her own hands. Now she could only swallow it, teeth and blood together. After leaving the ward, my father walked silently for a while before he finally let out a heavy sigh. George, from now on, let's keep some distance from the Lu family. He felt it was unfair to me. A sincere goodwill had been twisted into something ugly. I nodded, my heart calm and unruffled. I understand, Dad. Chapter 19. Willow's military career ultimately came to an end. The organization considered assigning her to an administrative position, but she refused. Willow gave a bitter smile. Have me sit in an office all day, watching others train? I can't do that. Makoto held her hand firmly. Willow, no matter what decision you make, I'll support you. I may not be a great man, he said, but I'm sure that wherever Willow goes, she'll make something of herself. She said the same to her worried parents. Though there was weariness in her eyes from the injury, there was also a flame of unwillingness to surrender. Not long after, Willow and Makoto were married. The wedding was particularly lively. Almost everyone in the compound was invited. Red wedding banners, loud gongs and drums, guests flooding the courtyard, blessings echoed endlessly. Willow wore her wedding dress, her posture elegant and upright. But if one looked closely, the heroic spirit she once carried had faded, replaced by a touch of heaviness between her brows. Makoto, dressed as the groom, stood beside her with a beaming smile. I received an invitation as well, and I went. Sitting among the guests, looking at the newlyweds on stage, I remembered the previous life. Willow didn't allow a grand wedding. We simply got the marriage certificate, not even holding a banquet. Back then, I thought it was because of the camaraderie between soldiers, that everything should be kept simple, but thinking about it now, perhaps it was merely because the one she married was not the one she loved, so she didn't bother putting in the effort. In contrast, her love for Makoto in this life was truly passionate. The wedding was lively. I quietly finished my meal, offered an appropriate gift, and then slipped away unnoticed. All the past, in that moment, truly came to an end. Chapter 20. Willow's marriage was lively in the compound for a while, but gradually the excitement faded. Amid the rumors, my parents began urging me to get married. George, during dinner, my mother spoke with a tone that was nothing short of a command. You must settle your marriage this year. I lowered my head, eating quietly. Mom, I'm busy working on my research project. I don't have the mind for anything else. But you're already 25. My father put down his chopsticks, brows tightly knit. The gossip in the compound is getting worse and worse. People are saying all kinds of things. Your mother is worried for you. I'd heard them too. Some claimed I still hadn't let go of Willow, which was why I remained single all these years. Could I run out and explain that all I wanted was to focus on my career? Seeing the graying temples of my parents, I swallowed the refusal back down. This era was not like the future. Remaining unmarried meant enduring endless criticism. That evening, my father returned from a meeting, wearing a rare smile. George, come here. Dad has good news for you. He mysteriously pulled out a photo. This is Anna. She's also from the Special Forces. She won first place in the women's competition this year. She's a good girl. Do you want to meet her? Anna. I froze. I remembered the name. Willow had mentioned her in my previous life, calling her a rare talent. And in this life, she actually took first place. Because of that slight deviation of fate, curiosity stirred, and I agreed to meet her. The meeting was arranged at the park, on the weekend. The park was filled with sunlight filtering through the willow branches. From afar, I spotted a graceful figure standing by the pavilion, tall, poised, elegant. Anna smiled at me, and for some reason, her smile felt dazzling. Dr. Wong, I'm Anna. Up close, she looked even more heroic than in the photo. We walked along the lake, and gradually, Anna opened up. Dr. Wong, we actually met before. Oh. At the earthquake rescue site, she said, her eyes warm. My thigh was pierced by a steel bar. You were the one who saved me. You helped me keep my leg. Only then did I remember. She had been sweating from the pain, her voice trembling. Yet she insisted I go save others first. And also, Anna took out a small clay jar from her pocket. Do you remember this? I was stunned. This was the ointment Willow had rejected. That day, you hurriedly shoved this into my hands before running off again to save people. Anna stroked the jar gently, her voice filled with gratitude. This medicine was incredible. My injury healed so quickly. If not for this ointment, I wouldn't have made it in time for the competition, let alone won first place. Shock rippled through me. So a small act of mine had changed this girl's fate. Dr. Wong. Anna suddenly stopped walking. Her ears were red, but her gaze was unwavering. There's something I've held in my heart for a long time. You've always been the dream man of many of us women soldiers. I looked up in surprise, my face instantly burning. Before, everyone thought you and Battalion Commander Lu would end up together, so no one dared think too much. She took a deep breath. But now I've taken first place. I've become a battalion commander myself, and I'm no worse than Battalion Commander Lu. So, I want to date you. It was my first time meeting such a bold girl. Her sincerity stirred something in the quiet places of my heart. I looked at this earnest young woman. Thought of that misplaced jar of ointment. Thought of how differently this life had unfolded. Comrade Su, I said softly, we can start as friends. Anna Su's eyes lit up instantly. Oh, okay, great. Sunlight danced across her shoulders through the leaves. And suddenly, I found that my mood, too, had brightened with her smile. Chapter 21. Since the day in the park, Anna Su had become a frequent visitor at the hospital. Dr. Wong. Comrade Su sent something for you again. The young nurse handed me a paper package with a teasing smile. Today it's a bag of osmanthus candies. This is the first time we've seen a man who likes sweets this much. I ignored their teasing and accepted it calmly. This was already the 5th time this month. Sometimes she brought seasonal fruits. Sometimes the newly stocked notebooks from the supply store. Yesterday she even sent a jar of snow cream, simply because she saw a small crack on my hand. Comrade Su must be spending all her allowance on you. A colleague joked. I only smiled, but warmth rose in my chest. In my previous life, I was always the one giving Willow gifts. She would just take them indifferently, never once gifting me anything. But in this life, here was a woman who, despite people's teasing, despite causing gossip all over the compound, only wanted me to see her sincerity. What virtue did I, George, possess to deserve such affection from a woman like her? Unknowingly, I had already grown accustomed to Anna's presence, accustomed to her lively yet sincere concern. One day, a female soldier ran to the hospital in a panic. Dr. Wong, our battalion commander Su has a high fever. She can't even get out of bed. I immediately grabbed my medical kit. How long has she had the fever? 2 days. She refused to come to the hospital. I hurried with the soldier to Anna's dormitory, only to find her forcing herself to sit at the desk reading, her cheeks abnormally flushed. The female soldier grinned. Battalion Commander Su, I brought Dr. Wong to treat you. Let's see if he can fix you up. I felt a bit embarrassed. Anna tossed a pillow at her. You brat, go run 10 laps around the field. I'm not going. The girl dodged easily and continued tattling. Dr. Wong, Battalion Commander Su has had a fever for 2 days and still refuses to take her medicine. You have to take care of her properly. Then she slipped away quickly. Anna brushed her hair awkwardly. Sorry, that girl loves to mess around. I'm fine. Sorry to trouble you. Seeing the flush on her cheeks, I reached out and touched her forehead, burning hot. You call this fine? Your fever is almost at 40 degrees. Feeling my cool fingertips on her skin, Anna froze completely. That cool touch seemed to send an electric current straight from her forehead to her heart. Her face turned even redder. She instinctively pulled back a little, stammering, really? It's nothing." Her rare flustered look almost made me laugh, but I kept my expression stern. "Battalion Commander Su, putting on a brave face in front of a doctor is not a good habit." I gently pushed her back onto the bed and pulled out a thermometer from the kit. "Don't move. Take your temperature first." Anna obediently opened her mouth to hold the thermometer. Though her eyes never stopped following me as I worked, her gaze was so soft it could melt into water. I removed the thermometer, frowning deeply. 38.9. With a fever this high, how can you still be reading? Anna gave a sheepish smile. My head felt heavy, so I thought reading might distract me a little. I picked up my silver needles. "Lie down. I'll give you a few acupuncture points. Then you need to sleep properly." Seeing the worry on my face, Anna suddenly felt that falling ill was worth it. She glanced at the silver needles, then at me sitting beside her bed. Suddenly realizing the improper image of a man and woman alone in a room, she hurried to say, "Have you eaten yet? Maybe I should go to the cafeteria and get you some food." I couldn't help laughing. "Battalion Commander Su, you're the one who's sick. Why are you worrying about me?" Anna Su's ears reddened again. "I'm afraid you'll go hungry." At that moment, Anna was nothing more than a young girl experiencing her first stirrings of affection. My heart softened, and my voice unconsciously gentled. "Take care of yourself first. When your fever goes down, We'll go eat together. Anna's eyes lit up instantly. Really? I nodded. When your fever's gone, come find me at the hospital. The atmosphere in the single dormitory felt warm and tender. As I was about to leave with my medical kit, my gaze was drawn to a photo tucked beneath the glass panel of her desk. It was a picture of a young soldier in an old-style military uniform. I froze. I knew this face too well. This young soldier appeared in an old photo my father kept, the one where he had his arm around my father's shoulder. Anna glanced at the photo and said, "That's my father. He died when I was 10. My heart pounded, and I asked, "What was your father's name?" "Diego," Anna replied, a little puzzled. "Why?" I pressed urgently. "Did he have another name? Was he ever called Iron Egg?" Anna sat up straight, shock flooding her face. "How do you know that?" "That was my father's original name. After he died, the family said a hero shouldn't be called something like that, so they changed it to Diego." This photo, my voice trembled with excitement. "Can you lend it to me for a moment?" With her permission, I took the photo and rushed home. Heading straight for my father's study, I pulled out his treasured album and flipped through it page by page, comparing carefully. "It really is the same person," I murmured, my fingers brushing the faces of my father and the young soldier in the picture. "George, what are you looking for?" my father asked as he entered the study. "Dad, look at this." I placed the two photos side by side on the table. I found Uncle Sue's daughter. My father put on his reading glasses. His hands suddenly trembled. "Yes. Iron Egg, it's really Iron Egg." His eyes reddened instantly, and his voice choked. "I've been looking for his family for so many years. Back on the battlefield. If Iron Egg hadn't taken that bullet for me, I would have been the one who died. And I, being a doctor, I should have been the one to save him. Quick, where is your Uncle Sue's daughter? Take me to her." I quickly held back my emotional father. "Dad, she's not someone else. She's Anna." Chapter 22. With the special bond of being the daughter of my lifesaver, my marriage with Anna was quickly put on the agenda. "George, seeing you and Anna together finally lifts the weight off my heart." My father patted my hand, relief filling his eyes. "Now you can finally let go of the pain in your heart." My mother was also happy for him. I looked at them with a smile and said, "I like Anna very much too." After the wedding date was decided, Anna devoted all her attention to me. Ever since her father sacrificed his life, and her mother passed away early as well, she had been all alone. Now she finally had the warmth of a home again. "George, this is the allowance I've saved over the years." Anna pushed the savings book into my hand. Her ears slightly red. "From now on, I'm leaving it all to you." I almost laughed. "Shouldn't my salary be placed in your care instead? Why are you asking me to take charge of your money? People will think I'm a freeloader depending on my woman. I'd like to see who dares say that. If anyone talks nonsense about you, I'll make sure they regret it." I said, "I'll hand it to you." "So I will. Don't worry about anything. This is all voluntary." Seeing her domineering and forceful attitude, I recalled how in the previous life everyone in the compound said I lived off a woman. Yet Willow had never spoken a word in my defense. In that life, I thought she simply didn't know. Now I realize, she did know. She just didn't care to defend me. Looking at Anna's sincerity, I still refused. "I'm a man. I can't reach out to a woman for money." Somehow, news of our growing relationship spread to Willow's ears. That day, I had just finished a surgery. Exhausted, I stepped out of the hospital and found Willow waiting at the gate. She was in casual clothes, less crisp than when she wore her uniform, but more alluring. "George," she went straight to the point, brows tightly furrowed. "I heard you're marrying Anna." I looked at her calmly. "Yes. Come and drink our wedding wine when the time comes." Willow spoke urgently. "You two aren't suitable. Anna, her personality is too unrestrained, and the Special Operations Unit is extremely dangerous. If you really want to find a partner, I know a few good female comrades." She listed several names, loyal subordinates from her past life. I found it somewhat laughable. Did she still think she was the wife who could dictate my life? "Thank you for your kindness, but there's no need," I rejected directly. "Who I'm with is my own business." Seeing my firm attitude, Willow frowned even more. After a moment of silence, as if making a major decision, she lowered her voice. "I had a dream. I dreamed that Anna had an accident during a mission. I'm warning you because I don't want you to experience the pain of losing someone you love." My heart skipped a beat. In a trance, I remembered that in the previous life Willow attended a memorial service. The one who died was a female soldier with the surname Sue. Could it be that person was Anna? My mind felt unsettled, but looking at the complex emotions in Willow's eyes, I couldn't tell her real motive. But regardless, my life did not need her arrangements. "Thank you for telling me, but who can say what the future holds?" My tone was distant. "I trust the organization, and I trust Anna's abilities. You don't need to worry. I'm doing this for your own good." I cut her off. "No need. Willow, we each have our own path now." Willow looked at my cold attitude, her lips trembling slightly before she finally left one sentence. If you ever need help in the future, you can come find me. I shook my head, voice resolute. Forget it, Willow. From now on, it's better if we keep our distance. I never told Willow that I, too, had been reborn. Anna's fate had already changed because of me, and I would do everything in my power to keep her alive. Chapter 23. Anna and I got married. After marriage, our relationship grew even deeper. She never interfered with me, and even did everything she could to support my career. George, isn't your hospital preparing to form a scientific research team lately? I think you're fully qualified to compete for the team leader position. I looked up and smiled. You also support me continuing to refine my medical skills. Of course I support you, Anna said seriously. Your golden needle acupuncture skills are a valuable treasure and shouldn't be buried. You don't have to worry about anything at home. I'm here. We exchanged a smile, warmth flowing between us. Time passed like flowing water, and in the second year of our marriage, a political storm hit the once peaceful compound. That day, Anna returned from work with a solemn expression and told me, George, Chief of Staff Lou is in trouble. I heard he's going to be sent to a cowshed in the Northwest for reformation. The teacup in my hand almost slipped. I asked, what? I clearly remembered that in my previous life, although Lou's father was also impacted, he was ultimately only demoted, but in this life, the punishment was so severe he was being sent to a cowshed. I put down the documents in my hand. Let's go to my parents' place. Anna and I went back to my parents' home, and sure enough, we heard them discussing the matter. Father's brows were tightly furrowed. Old Lou is in real trouble this time. I went to see the old commander today and wanted to speak on his behalf, but the commander told me clearly not to get involved. Mother sighed. Old Lou was foolish. How could he stand on the wrong side at a time like this? Father pondered aloud. If someone could firmly protect him at a critical moment, and present his merits from the war years, it's not impossible for him to receive a more lenient punishment. At that moment, Father stood up and said, I'll go make another phone call. Forget it. Mother immediately grabbed him. This political storm is massive. If we really want to help, it wouldn't be just the Lou family needing help, we wouldn't be able to manage it. Father froze mid-motion. After a long moment, he let out a heavy sigh. Forget it. Hearing this, I suddenly understood. In my previous life, although my parents never told me, because of me, they must have disregarded their own safety and worked tirelessly to help Lou's father behind the scenes. As a result, Father lost his position as the hospital director, and Mother stepped down from her role as head of the performing arts troupe. All of that effort exchanged only for Lou's father receiving a demotion. But in this life, since our family was no longer in-laws with the Lou family, my parents would never devote themselves like before. Thus, the outcome was being sent directly to a cowshed. This was the inevitable consequence of Willow choosing Makoto after her rebirth. Realizing this, my feelings were a complicated mix of emotions. Chapter 24. I remembered that around this time in my previous life, Lou's mother suffered a stroke and became paralyzed because she was overwhelmed by Lou's father's situation. Back then, Willow was in the rising stage of her career, gaining the commander's appreciation. After discussions, in order to support Willow, I resigned from the hospital, stayed home full-time to care for my mother-in-law, completely gave up my own career, and became the freeloaderman in the compound's gossip. In this life, although I no longer wanted to have anything to do with Willow, when I thought of Lou's mother, who once treated me like her own son, and thought of how Willow, in her youth, had indeed truly cared about me, I still couldn't harden my heart. After dinner, I took my mother aside. Mom, I saw Auntie Lou a few days ago. She didn't look well. Now that Uncle Lou is in trouble, I'm afraid she might not be able to bear it. I glanced at Anna, who was tidying up the dishes, and lowered my voice. I don't really want to go see the Lou family right now, but to repay Auntie Lou for treating me so kindly back then, could you please go check on her for me, and persuade her to get a medical exam? Mother sighed. You child, your heart is too soft. Fine. I'll go first thing in the morning. The next morning, Mother specially made time to visit the Lou family. She knocked for a long time with no response. A sense of dread rose in her chest. She pushed the door open forcefully, and the scene before her made her gasp. Lou's mother was lying unconscious on the floor. A shattered teapot was scattered beside her, and the kettle on the coal stove had long boiled dry. Mother rushed over to check her condition and discovered she had been paralyzed for quite some time. Rigor had already set into her limbs. Sister-in-law Lou, Mother performed emergency aid while her eyes reddened. How could there be no one at home? Although Mother brought Lou's mother to the hospital as fast as she could, by the time Willow and Makoto rushed over, it was already too late. Auntie Wong, my mom, Willow knelt by the bedside. Her voice choked. Mother shook her head heavily. She was found far too late. Even if Hippocrates were reborn, she'll likely never stand again. She added with some anger, your father is under investigation and can't come back. With something like this happening at home, your mother was alone. Why didn't you and Makoto come back to check on her? Willow shut her eyes in anguish. When the news reached me, I was in the hospital consulting patients. My pen paused for a moment, but in the end, I continued writing the prescription. Even though I was reborn, there were still some things I could not change. Chapter 25. With no one pleading or fighting on behalf of Lou's father, the disciplinary order finally came down. On the day the relocation notice was delivered, I happened to return to the military district compound to pick up some belongings. From afar, I saw Lou's father standing alone at his doorway, clutching the notice that would decide his fate. His hunched back looked as if he had suddenly aged 10 years. I hesitated for a moment, then still walked over. "Uncle Lou," I called softly. Lou's father turned around. Seeing it was me, he forced out a faint smile. "George, it's you." I reached into my pocket and quietly slipped an envelope into his hand. "There's some money in here. Please take it. Conditions in the Northwest are harsh, you'll need it." As he held the thick envelope, Lou's father's eyes instantly reddened. No, Uncle still has enough. Please keep it," I said gently. "Traveling requires money. Take it for the road. Life over there won't be easy, but you must take care of your health. Remember, the dawn always comes eventually." Lou's father's hands trembled as he accepted the envelope, tears streaming down his face. "George, Uncle regrets it. It was Willow who lacked the blessing. She wronged you. If I had known back then." I quickly cut him off. "It's all in the past. Please take care." Just then, Willow walked out of the house carrying luggage. She froze when she saw me. "Dad, it's time to go." Her voice was hoarse. Lou's father looked behind his daughter, seeing no one, and his expression darkened. "Where's Makoto?" Willow lowered her head. "He said there's an important surgery today. He couldn't leave." Lou's father let out a cold laugh. "An important surgery? He doesn't even have time to send off his own father-in-law." He pointed at Willow, voice trembling with anger. "This is the man you insisted on marrying, back then. For him, you pushed away a good young man like George. Now look, just look." Willow stood silently, not saying a single word. Sunlight fell on her, casting a lonely shadow on the ground. I shook my head and turned to leave. Even after walking far away, I could still hear Lou's father's suppressed coughing and heavy sighs. Chapter 26. According to regulations, the Lou family's housing was reclaimed. Because Lou's mother was severely ill and couldn't follow Lou's father to the cowshed, Willow had no choice but to bring her mother to live with her and Makoto. The moving day was especially bleak. Willow carried belongings back and forth all by herself. I saw her, but ultimately did not lend a hand. The neighbors' looks, whether sympathetic or disdainful, stabbed into her back like needles. "Look, even Chief Lou's family has fallen to this point. Quiet. That's pitiful." When the last item was moved into the cramped room of less than 15 square meters, Willow leaned against the doorframe, panting in exhaustion. Looking at the room packed to the brim, she experienced for the first time what it truly meant for a family to fall into decline. Willow, Lou's mother, lay on the bed, weakly saying, "Mom has become a burden to you." Willow forced herself to lift her spirits and comforted her. "Mom, I'm your daughter. What do you mean, burden or not? Don't mind how small the room is now. Once my position rises, I'll apply to the organization for a bigger place." But reality's pressure came one wave after another. Willow then realized that the settlement allowance she received upon retiring from the army was entirely in Makoto's hands. And ever since Lou's father got into trouble, Makoto had moved back to the hospital dormitory without even giving her an explanation. The weight of life instantly fell onto Willow's shoulders. She had to go home at fixed times every day to feed her mother medicine, wipe her down, and cook meals. Life grew harder and harder. One day, she had just gotten her food at the cafeteria and was about to go home when Zhang Tsuehua from the logistics department stopped her. "Willow, you leave work early every day. This looks really bad." The woman gave her a sidelong glance. "What? Still acting like the daughter of a commander?" Someone nearby chimed in sarcastically. "She's the daughter of a reactionary, you know. Her pride is still sky high." Willow clenched her lunchbox so tightly her knuckles turned white, but she could only lower her head and say, "Director Zhang, my mother is bedridden and seriously ill. The woman waved her hand impatiently. "Who doesn't have difficulties at home? If you want to take care of a patient, submit your resignation. Don't occupy a post without doing the work." In her previous life, the commander's daughter never had to bow her head, but in this life, she had to lower her noble head and smile apologetically to others. After the crowd mocked her to their satisfaction, they finally let her leave. Back home, Lou's mother noticed her abnormal expression and cautiously asked, "Willow, is someone at your unit making things difficult for you?" Willow forced out a smile and set the food before her mother. "Nothing like that. Please eat while it's warm." Watching her mother struggle to swallow even a few bites, Willow felt a deep ache in her chest. She remembered how yesterday, when she went to look for Makoto, the man who once vowed to share hardships with her actually gave her only two choices. Standing in the hospital corridor, Makoto's tone was ice cold. Either publicly sever ties with your family in the newspaper, or we divorce. I will never allow either of us to quit our job to take care of a paralyzed old woman." Willow could hardly believe her ears. "Makoto, those are my parents." Makoto spoke heatedly. "But they will ruin my future too." "Willow, have you ever thought about me? If I get labeled the same way as your father, our lives will be completely over. I worked so hard to become an attending physician. I will not allow anything to jeopardize that." "Willow, don't say I'm heartless. Blame your father's political status. Blame the fact that your mother is a burden." Looking at the face she had devoted her entire life to chasing, Willow felt lost. In this life, she finally caught the light she yearned for. Yet why was reality far less perfect than she imagined? In her previous life, the Liu family wasn't as prominent as the Wang family. But at least they were stable. In this life, the Liu family had completely fallen, while the Wang family was flourishing. In her previous life, George willingly resigned and cared for her family wholeheartedly. In this life, Makoto wanted to publicly sever ties with her parents. In her previous life, she regretted losing her true love for the rest of her life. In this life, she filled that regret, yet she now longed for the warm home she once had. From outside the window came the smell of someone else cooking, along with cheerful laughter, making the tiny room feel even more suffocating and lifeless. Willow quietly cleaned the dishes, when suddenly, she heard her mother speak softly behind her. "Willow, if only you had married George back then." Her hands froze. Hot water splashed onto the back of her hand, yet she felt no pain. The road she chose was her own. No matter how difficult, she had to keep walking it. Chapter 27. Liu's mother, paralyzed in bed, gradually began to lose clarity in her speech. Willow grew anxious and brought her mother to the hospital again and again, but the doctor said she needed to take her medication on time and receive proper care. There was a chance the progression could be controlled. Willow went to beg Makoto again. She truly couldn't accept it. She had worked so hard to get a second life. How could she let it become this humiliating? By then, Liu's father's incident had passed for quite a while, and there had been no further implications for Willow. Makoto seemed relieved. For the sake of their past relationship, he returned home with Willow. Willow was overjoyed. She believed firmly that she had not chosen wrong in this life. The hardship was temporary. As long as they endured for a few years, everything would get better. In stark contrast to the bleak gloom over the Liu family, my life grew increasingly brilliant. I devoted myself fully to medical research and clinical practice, with the deep foundation from my previous life and the dexterity of my hands in this one. My golden needle acupuncture technique became ever more refined, combined with the secret formulas passed down in the Wang family. I conquered several difficult and complicated diseases and published multiple highly influential academic papers. I was no longer just a well-known doctor in the military district hospital. I became a rising star in the national medical field. Commendations and honors came one after another. Time and time again, I stood on higher podiums, receiving praise and recognition from all sides. I was truly happy, genuinely happy. In this life, I no longer had to look up to the achievements of any colleague, nor feel heartbroken in the dead of night because I could no longer lift a silver needle. Through my own effort and talent, I won the dignity and glory that belonged to the name George. No one would ever again introduce me with the habitual prefix, the son-in-law of the Liu family, and no one would ever again say I lived off a woman. When people spoke of me, they would say, "That's Dr. George," or "That's the son of Director Wang, his medical skills are incredible." I was George, an independent, powerful, radiant George, shining brilliantly in my own field. Chapter 28. In the third year of our marriage, Anna received a top-secret mission notice. Seeing the bright red, top secret stamp on the document, she remained silent for a long time. The night before departure, Anna came home early on purpose and worked in our tiny kitchen for a full 2 hours. When I returned from work, the table was filled with all my favorite dishes. "What's the special occasion today?" I asked with surprise, then noticed the heaviness hidden between her brows. Anna pulled out my chair for me, her voice unusually gentle. "I just wanted to cook you a meal." At the table, Anna kept placing food into my bowl, yet her eyes repeatedly drifted to my face without her realizing it. I set down my chopsticks and gently held her hand as I asked, "Anna, are you going on a mission?" Her movements paused. She neither confirmed nor denied it. She only held my hand in return. "George, I placed my other hand gently over her lower abdomen. "Wife." I looked into her eyes, my voice soft yet unwavering. "When you come back, let's have a child." Anna's eyes instantly turned red. "Okay." Her voice was hoarse. "Wait for me to come back." That night, we held each other as we slept. Neither of us spoke again, yet we both held each other's hands tightly. At dawn the next morning, when I woke up, the pillow beside me was already cold. A letter sat on the nightstand, her handwriting on the envelope unmistakable. "To my dearest George." The letter was short, only a few lines, yet my tears fell uncontrollably as I read it. George, when I return, I'll give you a child. If it's a boy, let's name him Pax. If it's a girl, Irene. May we have a lifetime of peace." Outside, the morning sun was slowly rising. I whispered, "Anna, you must come back." A month passed. There was no word from Anna. One evening, my father came to my home with heavy steps, clutching a telegram in his hand. Seeing the grave expression on his face, my heart sank sharply. "George," my father's voice was dry. "Anna went missing at the border." The teacup in my hand shattered on the floor. I remembered Willow's warning. I remembered the surname comrade who died in my previous life. Was fate truly unchangeable? I stroked the ring on my finger. No, impossible. She promised me she'd come back. I had to go find her. Once that thought arose, it could no longer be suppressed. "You're insane." Father slammed the table. "George, you're the pillar of the hospital. So many patients are waiting for you." "Exactly, because I'm a doctor, that's why I must go." I calmly packed my medical kit. "The border conditions are harsh." "That's exactly where they need medical personnel." Father watched me in silence, then finally sighed. "Go, but you must come back safely." Mother, eyes red, stuffed various medicinal herbs into my luggage. "Bring Anna home, no matter what. Bring her back." The hardships at the border were far beyond imagination. Under the name of a volunteer medical team, I came here, treating the wounded at the temporary medical point during the day, and at night, carrying Anna's photo from place to place asking for information. "Have you seen this female comrade?" I asked every outpost, every village. Everyone shook their heads. A month passed, still no news. That day, in heavy rain, on my way back to the station, I heard someone say that a herbalist had rescued a severely injured woman deep in the mountains. Ignoring all warnings, I rushed into the mountains through the storm, trekking through the mud for an entire day, and finally found the small wooden hut before nightfall. The moment I pushed the door open, my breath stopped. Anna lay on a crude wooden plank bed, her face pale as paper, her left leg wrapped in rough cloth, stained with dark red blood, but she was alive. She was alive. I rushed to her side, my hands trembling as I examined her injuries. High fever, infection, broken bones. After falling off a cliff, she had dragged her injured leg through the jungle for days. "Anna." I whispered her name, my voice choking. "I'm here." Perhaps she heard my voice through the fog of unconsciousness. Her eyelashes trembled faintly. In the days that followed, I never left her side. I used the herbs I brought to lower her fever, used my golden needles to ease her pain, changed her dressings and fed her medicine every day. "You will get better," I whispered to her over and over. "We still have to have a child. We still have to watch our child grow up together." Half a month later, on a quiet morning, Anna finally opened her eyes. When she saw me, she froze, then tears welled up instantly. "George, am I dreaming?" I held her hand tightly. "You're not dreaming. I really came." Anna's team had been ambushed on their way back after completing the mission. She was severely injured and fell off a cliff while covering her comrades. She thought she would never see me again. She never imagined she would wake up. Another half a month passed, and Anna's condition stabilized. I carried her on my back, step by step, out of the mountains. When she stood under the sunlight again, we both cried. "George." She leaned into my arms and whispered, "Let's go home." "Okay." I kissed her forehead. "Let's go home and have our child." 2 years later, Anna held our 1-month-old daughter in her arms and said to me, "Let's name her Irene." Only after experiencing life and death does one truly understand the preciousness of peace. Chapter 29. Willow learned that I had a daughter and sent over a gift. Seeing the silver longevity lock that, in the previous life, hung around my daughter's neck, I frowned slightly, but I still didn't reject it. From time to time, I would hear news about the Liu family. Makoto indeed returned, but after only a month of caring for Liu's mother, he could no longer endure it. The narrow tube-shaped apartment was constantly filled with the smell of Chinese medicine. Liu's mother lay paralyzed in bed, pouring all her resentment about their fallen family onto Makoto. "Jinx, jinx." Whenever Makoto approached, Liu's mother would curse in her slurred voice. "It's all your fault. You harmed my daughter." Makoto fought back. "Mom, please be reasonable. What does Liu family's downfall have to do with me?" It's you." Liu's mother slapped the bedboards in agitation. "If Willow hadn't married you, how would we end up like this?" Willow was caught in the middle, helpless. She knew better than anyone that today's situation had nothing to do with Makoto. It was entirely the result of her own choices. But seeing her mother suffering like that, she could only soothe gently. "Mom, it really isn't Makoto's fault. Please take your medicine. Getting better is the most important thing." Yet in Liu's mother's ears, such words were clearly siding with Makoto. Her curses became even harsher. "Get out. Both of you, get out." To Makoto, Willow's defense was weak and useless. One day, he had just gotten off work when he heard Liu's mother muttering again, accusing him from the shadows. "A married daughter is like spilled water. How wonderful George was. Makoto finally exploded. Willow, I can't live like this anymore. I've done my best to take care of her, but she still keeps thinking about George and you. Since you don't refute her, does that mean you regret marrying me? Willow didn't know if she regretted it. She only felt that life was far less smooth than in her previous life, but she still believed firmly that these hard days were temporary. When policies shifted and times changed, everything would eventually get better. But faced with Makoto's anger, she felt powerless. This constant arguing, day after day, was not the life she wanted. She looked at Makoto helplessly. Makoto, she's my mother. Makoto burst out. I work myself to death every day, and when I come home, I still have to endure this. I truly can't take it anymore. Willow, you're already trapped in the mud. Please let me go. Let's get a divorce. Hearing the word divorce again, Willow no longer felt the piercing pain she did the first time. For Makoto, she had given up George, lay in the ruins refusing treatment, destroyed her career. For him, she distanced herself from her parents and worsened her mother's illness. Yet she never regretted it. She felt sorry for Makoto, sorry that he had to suffer through such bitter days with her. But if they just persevered, everything would get better. She looked at Makoto pleadingly. Makoto, just hang on a few more years. Everything will get better. You can't let go of your mother. And I refuse to be the evil son-in-law. The best ending is that we separate. Otherwise, I'll be driven insane. And when that happens, I don't even know what I might do. Despite Willow's insistence, Makoto still divorced her. Willow locked herself in the room. That woman who was always so strong, and cried for an entire day. She had lived again, and this time she married the men she loved. So why did she end up abandoned by everyone? In her previous life, she had fame, success, and a harmonious family. In this life, her career was ruined, and even her marriage was slipping away. She had only made one choice. So how did it all turn out like this? She had only made one choice. So why did she end up with nothing? Chapter 30. When I heard news about Willow again, she had been arrested for illegal speculation. By that time, Anna was already the commander of the Special Operations Unit. After hearing the news, she couldn't help sighing. A woman that proud, how did she end up like this? I exhaled softly. This is fate, I suppose. According to the policies at the time, Willow should have been sent to the Northwest. It was I who asked Anna to intervene in secret, changing her punishment to a local investigation. Not for Willow's sake, but for Lou's mother. If Willow were exiled, that bedridden elder would not survive. After Willow was released, she disappeared together with Lou's mother, and they were gone for 10 years. 10 years later, one afternoon, I saw a familiar silhouette in the hospital corridor. Willow stood by the window, thinner than in my memory, yet her eyebrows carried a calmness molded by time. She walked toward me, her voice tinged with a roughness formed by the years. George, thank you for what you did back then. I corrected her calmly. I didn't help you. I helped Uncle Lou and Auntie Lou. Willow didn't insist on thanking me. Instead, she began telling me about her past 10 years. She took Lou's mother south, and relying on her own ability, carved out a life there. When the policies changed, she became a successful businesswoman, but Lou's mother remained forever in that land. As for Lou's father, though he eventually received rehabilitation, his body had long been ruined. Only 2 years after the reversal of his case, he passed away. Compared to living to 80 in the previous life, this life ended 30 years earlier. Willow gave a bitter smile. In my previous life, my regret was Makoto. In this one, my regret is my parents. Life is always filled with missing pieces. She meant it as a sigh, thinking I wouldn't understand her words, but I said calmly, there's no right or wrong in life, only different choices. As long as you felt it was worth it at the time, then there's nothing to regret later. In the last life, you carried regret for decades. In this one, don't let it happen again. Willow abruptly looked up. From the clarity in my eyes, she understood something. You also came back. I didn't answer with words, just nodded. Willow looked at me, emotions complicated. So, do you hate me? I shook my head. Why would I? The last life was my own choice. Every consequence should be borne by me. Willow bowed deeply to me. I'm sorry for everything, past and present, but I never regretted my choice. This time, I did not step aside. I accepted her apology calmly. I had always known, a proud, strong woman like Willow would never regret the choices she made. After that day, Willow left once more. Anna and I walked through many decades of storms together. We watched our daughter Irene grow up, join the army, and flourish. We experienced the nation's transformations and the passage of eras, always supporting each other, always respecting one another. In our later years, Anna and I often walked along the tree-lined paths of the military compound. The sunset stretched our shadows long. Anna held my hand, those hands still warm. George, she said softly, marrying you is the greatest blessing of my life. I looked into her still bright eyes and smiled. Meeting you is the greatest fortune of mine. The next time I heard about Willow was in the newspaper. She had become a well-known entrepreneur in the South, but died at 60, exhausted from years of overwork. She never remarried. After her death, she donated all her assets to charity. When I saw the news, I couldn't help feeling a little melancholic. She was truly a selfless woman. I recalled that moment right after Rebirth, standing on the dust-covered ruins, when I thought I had lost everything. But now, looking back, perhaps that was when I truly began to gain everything. I lost a woman who did not love me, but gained a brilliant, radiant life that belonged to me alone. I fulfilled my calling as a healer, found a partner who walked with me through all storms, and witnessed my child grow up. In this life, I, George, have no regrets.